everyone, and welcome back to our podcast series for Future Ready Librarians leading from the library. And I am super excited today to welcome my partner in crime, Mark Ray.
Hey, it's good to see you, Shannon.
It's so good
to see you.
Too. I am excited to talk about things that you're passionate about today, and Mark being just a leader within the library world and what he did within his district. I'm really excited, and I know you will be too, to talk about the things that he wants to talk about today around just conversations that we can have and how we really put ourselves to the top when it comes from leading from the library. And so I want to start by asking first, Mark, what your background is. What makes you kind of an expert in this?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm an expert, but I'm a librarian like all of us. So actually I was a teacher librarian for 20 years. I live here in Vancouver, Washington, which is a suburb of Portland, Oregon, and worked for most of my career actually in the same district where I grew up in. And so I was a teacher librarian for 20 years. I started off at an elementary school and then opened up a brand new middle school. Very proud to say that in 1995, that's just how old I am. In 1995, we actually opened up a school, Discovery Middle School in our district, that actually had a makerspace. We didn't call it a makerspace. Makerspaces hadn't been born yet, but it was a library, a computer lab, science lab, and even a fabrication space, all in the same area. And so I was part of that school for a couple of years. Then I went overseas to Brussels, and I was the head of libraries at the International School of Brussels and designed 2 new libraries there. And then I came back, and for most of my career was a high school librarian. And then in 2012, I was selected Washington State Teacher of the Year. It's the first time a librarian had been selected Teacher of the Year, and that was very cool. I was definitely not the best teacher in the state of Washington, but it was a great opportunity to highlight what librarians do. And then that same year, I got pulled into the tractor beam of administration, and I then was an administrator, a district leader for 7 years. And so I've been on both sides of the discussion of librarians. I've been one, and I've also worked with them and not really led them, but I kind of facilitated the librarians in our district for about 7 years. And then since that time, I've been kind of continuing to work with Future Ready Librarians, and I'm a free range educator now. So I'm not working with my district anymore and just enjoying projects that kind of are passionate for me. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's going to be a good conversation, and we're going to talk about just knowing yourself and knowing your boss. And let's kick that off by talking about why self-reflection is so hard for us as librarians, but why it is also very important.
yeah, and I'm really excited because with this podcast, we're not only going to pose the problem, but we're actually going to have solutions in both of these cases, thanks to some of the work that we've been doing with the Alliance for Excellent Education and Future Ready. So I think the challenge of self-reflection and kind of being a reflective practitioner for librarians, there's a couple of issues. One is many people around us simply don't know what we do. They don't understand what librarianship looks like in the 21st century. And that's as I'm saying that, I know that all librarians are going to be nodding their heads and say, yeah, I know that. I'm familiar with that. And so I think one of the challenges is how do we kind of rise up and identify those things that make us different, that rise us above the fray, as it were. And so I think that with that, one of the issues is that in many cases, librarians are evaluated as teachers, and there's nothing wrong with that. In Washington State, we have librarians that are referred to as teacher librarians. So I'm a teacher. I was a teacher librarian, and that's what we call ourselves. And I think that's really important. And teaching in a classroom is very different than teaching in a library. And that was actually one of the challenges. I worked with our librarians to develop our evaluation system within our own district. And it took us 3 years, not kidding, 3 years, where we worked together collaboratively to come up what that would look like, because it was so hard to identify what makes us different. And so the good news is that we are, I worked with Shannon and with the team at the Alliance last year, and we were able to come up with a self-reflection tool that I think will help librarians kind of measure themselves against the Future Ready Librarian framework. And it's a very simple survey, takes probably about 15 minutes, and it creates a little a summary of where your strengths are and where the areas of growth would be. And I think it's going to be really important as a tool, not only for librarians to use to kind of make their own professional learning plans, but also as potentially as a tool to highlight where their strengths are with their supervisors and with their colleagues.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most exciting things that is there now on the page. You can find it on the Future Ready page that we have for librarians. And it's something that is so helpful because it makes us not only aware of where we're at, but also where we want to go and those great things, those celebrations of what we're already doing, but goals that we want to set too.
Yeah, I remember when we first conceived of the idea of the Future Ready Librarians framework, we got calls immediately, saying we want to have like an evaluation framework, we want to have an evaluation criteria or a rubric. And I remember really pushing back on that and said, this is not about redefining the profession. This is not as detailed as the AASL standards and the frameworks that they've developed. Those are extensive and exhaustive guides to what the practice should look like. And many states have those as well. So it wasn't really that we wanted to be in a position of competing with that, but to provide really some guidance in terms of how to stretch yourself. And that's the great thing about the Future Ready Librarians framework, is that it really focuses on some specific areas and some specific areas to stretch and to kind of expand your concept of librarianship. And that's what the framework or what the self-reflection is designed to do, is really to kind of help people kind of figure out where they're rocking it and where they want to stretch it a little bit more.
I think that is so important. I know that I've taken it and we've used it a lot, and it's just great to see people. It's kind of nice seeing those like ahas, like, hey, I am doing some great things, and here are some areas that I need to do, a little bit more, change things or learn new things. And that's, I think, why all of the things that we do within Future Ready librarians can really benefit, that work as well.
Well, particularly now too, with just everything that's happening around schools and the uncertainty of it, it's nice to be able to take a moment and to celebrate the things that you do well. And I think, in addition to identifying where you can grow, it's also nice to say, wow, hey, look at this. This is something that I'm doing well, and I should feel good about that.
That's right. I love that. Well, and I think from when after the self-reflection is taken and we have that in our hands and we have those things to talk about, it's now a good time probably too to talk about partnerships that we have within our schools and the partnerships especially that we have with our leaders. And those oftentimes are very challenging as well. I think, especially, now there's a lot of schools that aren't back face to face, and there's a lot of districts, even here in Iowa, that haven't even went back to learning yet. And so, why don't you address some of those as partnerships, why they're game changers, and also some of those challenges that we have.
Yeah, and I kind of the theme of this podcast is kind of know yourself and know your boss. And I think, really, I think those are part of a sequence. And so, I think it's really important. One of the things I learned working as a district leader is collaborative partnerships and working with those alongside you, those that report to you, and also those that work above you on the food chain are absolutely critical. And I think that it's hard for librarians, more often than not, librarians kind of have this sway and control within their libraries. They're in charge, and they are the managers of that space. One of the things that I've learned in working with librarians is that there's a difference between management and leadership, and understanding how you work with and collaborate with those around you is really a critical piece of that leadership. And I didn't really understand that, honestly, until I left the library. Actually, when I became a manager of instructional technology, and it's like, oh, I don't have the answers to these questions, and oh my gosh, I need to have someone else do this work, because if I try to do it all myself, I will explode. So the idea of this strategic partnerships, I think, is really critical. Thankfully, I had some wonderful principals that I worked with. And the principal actually that nominated me for the Teacher of the Year, it came from her. She took me into her office and said, I'd like to nominate you for Teacher of the Year. And my jaw dropped, and it's like, what do you mean? And but it also, in that moment, I realized that I had moved from just being a librarian to being something different, something not better, but I'd moved beyond my library. And that partnership was largely due to the relationship that we worked together. And so I trusted her, she trusted me, and we frequently collaborated on projects, not only to support the library, but outside the library as well. And I will say that the person that took my place, Tracy Chun, who I think many people have already heard about, she's the person who coined the phrase "brave before perfect," and she took over Skyview and has taken it even further. I mean, her partnerships with her administrators and the way that she teaches in the classroom and provides leadership throughout the district are really exemplars of that. And I think the challenge is how do you start that conversation? How do you build that relationship? And one of the things that we've heard from librarians in the institutes and other events is that a lot of librarians really struggle with that. And it's not as easy. Sometimes it just works, and then sometimes you really have to work for it.
Yeah, well, and that is a challenge. And that's something that, at our institutes and as we work with librarians around the country or on our Future Ready Librarian Facebook page, like see very often is how we have those conversations. And I'm really excited because there is a solution to that too.
Yes, there is, Shannon. Yes, and this is actually something I want to thank Britton Follett, who I was on some kind of an event, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and we just realized this. It's like we need to find some way to help librarians kind of go through that process. And so I worked with the team this last year, and we launched it in the spring. And we're calling it a conversation starter. And it is a pretty detailed, it's I think 15-page PDF, but it's a step-by-step process to help librarians kind of think through, plan for, research, and then have productive conversations with their either school leaders or with district leaders. And it is, ironically, it actually starts with this idea of looking at yourself, to knowing yourself. And so the first module focuses on kind of looking at mindsets and in what ways are you growth and in what ways are you fixed, because we all have those. We would like to say we're all super growth mindset people. And on a good day we are, and in some days are bad days, and we might get a little fixed. So we talk a little bit about mindsets. We use the self-reflection tool as a means to kind of get that started. But then there's a process of kind of researching, what are the priorities at the school level? What are the priorities at the district level? Making those strategic connections, using the Future Ready Librarian framework as a means to kind of examine those things. And then there's some guides about how to, plan a conversation, some tools that they can use to create collaborative notes. And we recognize that a lot of librarians have outstanding relationships with their school and district leaders. And so it's not to suggest that, you need to do it this way, but there are a lot of people that struggle to sustain those relationships or just have not had those to date. And so the goal of this is to provide some support. And I'm really excited because I'm working with an IMLS grant in South Dakota, North Dakota, and Wyoming. And we're actually using the conversation starter as part of a course. And as we're going through it, we just launched it. And it's pretty cool to get the feedback from these library leaders from around that area about some of their recognitions and the things, the ahas that they didn't know before. And most of these people are they're all superstar librarians. They're rocking the free world with what they're doing. And the opportunity to kind of go back and think critically about what those processes are, I think has been very helpful.
Yeah, that's amazing. So where does everybody find that also?
Well, as you know, Shannon, that's also on the Future Ready Librarians Facebook page. So, well, I'm sorry, not the Facebook page, but the Alliance page. So Future Ready Librarians,
Yeah.
futureready.org/librarians. and that will take you to it. And there's actually, that's been featured on the webpage since last spring. So
Yeah.
that's available there as well.
Yeah, we're so excited about those two things because I think that, especially right now, I see this kind of as a time to take a look really deep. I know that I have been doing this, this spring and summer and fall, at what our role is and how we can take this and we can use this as something to help us grow. And so I think these two tools will be really super helpful. And that leads us into something super exciting.
But
Drum.
wait, there's more. If you order now, you get two. No, yeah, really exciting. We just got off a call actually with Future Ready with Leah and with the Follett team, and Shannon and I are working on a really exciting campaign, I guess probably is what you could call it, that's going to be launching next Wednesday. And that's I realize that we're doing a podcast, so this may be out of sequence. Some people will be watching this in the future unless it was already been out there. But anyway, we're going to be doing what's called the Future Ready Challenge, Future Ready Librarians Challenge, and it's going to be an opportunity, kind of some bite-sized professional learning opportunities. And it's just a way for people to get into the self-reflection tool, but also to prepare for and kind of scaffold around that conversation starter tool as well. So that will be launching just very soon, and really excited about that. And there's going to be opportunities to share on social media, and really it's an opportunity to learn, to share with the other Future Ready librarians, and also just to celebrate some of the great things that we're doing. So I think it'll be a nice way, if you haven't already taken the framework, or if you haven't already looked at the conversation starter, it's going to be a really nice way to kind of dip your toe in there and be able to use those tools and understand how they can support you in your practice.
Yeah, I'm so excited about the challenge. I think
Yeah,
that's super fun. I
it's going to be
cannot
fun.
wait.
Yeah.
And it's going to be something too that we just, grow the community that we have. And I think that's the great thing about us as Future Ready librarians, and just the work that we do and all the people that we get to work with. And that's just amazing. Like, you look at our Facebook group and, you look at all the conversations and work being done, and everybody is truly amazing, the work that you're doing around the country.
Yeah. I know that everybody, all educators in all walks of school are just really uncertain, and it's probably the hardest time that the education professionals have ever had in their lives. And we are really lucky that with the support of the Future Ready and the Alliance for Excellent Education and Follett, is that we have not only the opportunity, the librarians are probably the envy of other educators, because we have a community, we have clarity about what Future Ready looks like, and we have just all these great tools that are helping us do the work that needs to be done right now. So yes, it's hard, and I'm really glad to be working with you, Shannon, and with all the other team to be able to really support the community as we are. So things could be worse. We possibly might not have Future Ready librarians. I mean, can you imagine that? So it's really great that we have not only that movement, but also some of these great tools that are going to help librarians be successful this coming year.
Yeah, I love it. And we're all lucky to have you too, Mark. So thank you
It's a good teamwork.
For all your work and all of your words of wisdom and just the inspiration that you give us. And I have to thank Follett too for all of their support in what we do, and just the work that we continue as we look forward into the rest of this year and next year. Mark and I are just so excited for what is to come. So thank you for that too.
And by the way, this is our 5th year, Future Ready Librarians. We're starting our 5th year of doing this fantastic work. It's just amazing. I just think back, it's been a long time since we got this thing started, and it's really great that we're better than ever.
Yeah, that's really great. Well, thank you, Mark, so much. And I appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you in person, my friend. So
yeah, well, we'll eventually get there someday.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thanks for having me
today. And thanks for joining us.
It was a pleasure. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for the Future Ready Librarian podcast, Leading from the Library. I would like to also thank our sponsor, Follett Learning, for their amazing continued support.